If someone said that they hated children, they thought they only caused problems and they were just there to mess things up, would you trust them to run a nursery? Welcome to the Wokepedia podcast. The Wokepedia podcast is a ministry of Enemies Within the Church. You can go to enemieswithinthechurch.com to watch the film Enemies Within the Church. Go figure. But also click on the tab at the top, Wokepedia, and see our Wokepedia content. Now, we might be having some very fun and exciting news coming on the front of both Wokepedia and Enemies Within the Church coming up in the next few weeks, but we will save that for a more solid and interesting reveal. But I hope you've had a good 4th of July. I hope it was a great Independence Day. For those that are in the United States, I do know that we have international listeners. But this is going to be a lighter episode because of that. Now, obviously, you're going to be listening to this after the 4th, but we have to record ahead of time. We have to get it edited ahead of time, all that stuff. So we are going a little bit lighter this week. And I want to circle back to the little intro I gave. If someone came up to you and they said, "I hate children. I think they only cause problems. Do you want me to run the nursery at your church?" You'd laugh at them and say, "No, that's a complete conflict of interest. You've already decided that you don't like something. Why would I put you representing that thing?" Well, that's what we're going to look at today. Now, I'm about to mention something that we mention far too often because it seems to connect to everything, which is the Southern Baptist Convention, but this is not about the Southern Baptist Convention. This is about a very predatory lawyer who is, well, fits into woke camps, runs in those circles, and likes to get herself into the middle of controversies. And because the SBC is so large and they're having a controversy around this issue that shouldn't really be a controversy, but that's a partially different topic, we do have to mention them. So what's going on in the Southern Baptist Convention that I'm talking about is the sex abuse crisis that is currently going on, though as I've looked at personally in other places, I will link a podcast that I did on that, as well as a PowerPoint that I did that lays out some of the fascinating information about how messed up their, quote, secret list that was at one of the things at the center of this whole SBC abuse scandal thing. But it really shows that it's a paper tiger. There's not actually an issue there, or at least they haven't proven that there's an issue. Now, no sex abuse should ever be taking place in a church, ever. That number should always be desired to get down to 0. But when you're doing 10 plus times better than the secular world, you probably have a case that you don't have a crisis. Now, that's making a lot of assumptions even to say that. But there is a predatory lawyer, Rachel Den Hollander, who has been propagating the idea that the SBC has this huge, overwhelming sex abuse crisis, and she's been profiting off of that. She's been profiting from the SBC. She's been profiting from the gay affirming organization that the SBC hired to look into this issue and did a just absolutely awful job. The report, again, hinges heavily on the list and got a lot of details about that very wrong on a list that already has problems. Wow, it's bad. But again, this predatory lawyer, let's look at what we're going to talk about. Get it up on the screen here. Because it's a ridiculous tweet in general, but it shows one of the massive problems with getting this person involved. Again, going back to someone who hates children and think they cause problems, why would you get them involved in children's work? But what she says is, ask any advocate, if a pastor comes to court, he comes to support the perpetrator. This is universal and nearly unequivocal. That's a very contradictory sentence, but there's a reason. The pastors come to support the perpetrators. I have heard 4 of these types of stories just this week. We are decades too late asking why. Oh boy. Talk about an absolute uh, so many issues with that. I mean, one, it comes off as a secular attack on the church. I mean, if you didn't know that this was a supposed Christian, I don't know a way you'd read that and think, oh yeah, this person is talking is trying to support the health of the church. No, 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 no. It reads as an attack. Why does it read as an attack? Well, this person is saying that pastors universally support sexual abusers. Actually, I think in this context, you may just be saying abusers in general. Either way, the same concept. Now, again, that's why she says this is universal and nearly unequivocal. Should we tie this in with our How the Woke Manipulate series? Um, she's trying to give herself kind of an out there. Oh, see, I'm not saying it's unequivocal. Then why did you just say it was universal? It's because she believes one, but she needs to put the other in there, even though it creates a contradiction or a bit of a contradiction. But she really bears her heart in this, and her heart is wicked. Her heart believes that all pastors support abuse, that all pastors will defend abusers. And again, she's putting motive on them, and then raises a question at the bottom. Why are we decades too late to ask why? Well, in discussion of because I posted this in the Southern Baptist group, and I'm like, hey guys, this person is supposedly an expert that's been helping craft the SBC's response, because she has. But she's revealing here, she's saying, I hate pastors. I think they're all just a bunch of abusers and or defenders of abusers. And someone pointed out that they were trying to essentially agree with her, but then I pointed out why they weren't agreeing with her. But they did raise a good point that shows one of the weaknesses in here. And she knows this as a lawyer. It's the defense calling in the pastor. They're trying to get testimony to support the defense of the person. So they're calling in a reputable, now not as reputable as used to be in the culture, but a reputable witness to testify to that person's character. Okay, so it's the court telling the pastor, come and speak to this person's character. Now, I don't fully know how character witnesses work. I don't know if the court can call you and you can just say, nah, I don't want to. Uh, Either way, there's definitely a lot of pressure in that situation to go. But she's also, another key thing she's not allowing for is innocence. She's, again, read this again. She's assuming the guilt of the person. There is no innocent until proven guilty with her. And this goes into the whole Me Too thing. She's an advocate of the Me Too movement, specifically the Church Too movement. She's spoken to that on more than one occasion. At some point, we will cover her in more details, because she is definitely one of those people that has been causing a bit of a problem in the church world. But she's assuming the guilt of the person. There is no assumption of possible innocence. This person is an abuser. The pastor coming in and speaking to the character of the person, no matter the context, no matter what the pastor says, because I'm assuming there are also times that he comes in and says, yeah, no, I don't agree that this was a good person. Again, there's so many things she's not taking into consideration. But again, she's assuming that the the person is guilty and that the pastor has knowledge of that. The assumptions that she's putting into this are very, very, very dangerous and very big. And she takes those for granted. And then leaves you with the question, why are we too late, decades too late, asking why? Well, she hasn't even proven her point. She hasn't proven her point that this is the universal thing, that pastors universally come in and defend abusers. She hasn't proven that that is the standard. She hasn't proven that they're defending them. She hasn't proven that they know they're abusers. She hasn't proven any of these points. That she's leaving you the question. Why is she leaving you the question? Because she wants you to think of an answer. It's to distract you from the holes in what she's said. Now, I even asked someone about this, like, hey, could this get you in trouble? Like, if you were on a court case, because again, she's a lawyer, she deals with abuse cases. If she was dealing with an abuse case that somehow a pastor was involved in it, as whether the accused person or brought in as a witness or any of these circumstances, could this tweet get her in trouble? And my friend, who he just graduated law school, so not not incompetent when it comes to questions like this. He's like, yeah, there's a very realistic possibility that this would cause her problems. That, you show this to the court and it's immediately going to get her into trouble because it shows a problematic bias. And again, this is someone who's supposedly for the church, yet is directly saying, I think that pastors are wicked. Using her language, universally wicked. That's shocking. Stop sharing the screen now. Oh, good. So you can see the cat in the background again now. Well, at least you who are looking on video. But these are the kind of things that are going on. This is also why we do the How the Woke Manipulate series, which normally the first Friday of the month would be a How the Woke Manipulate episode. Again, we're keeping it light this week because of the 4th, because of more limited time this week to both record and to edit, because both of those take a decent amount of time and prepare. We have to prepare for the content. But that's why we're doing that series. And we're talking about a whole bunch of different topics. And we're hoping that they're painting pictures for you, patterns that you're able to pick up and see. Now, spoiler alert, if you haven't already got the picture, we've mentioned it before, but a lot of things we're talking about, they don't just exist within woke circles. They exist all over the place, even on the good side. I myself will do some of those at some point. We all do. But understanding the ways that we massage a situation to sound more appealing to our side is important to check ourselves, to, when we're called on it, to realize it and to correct course. It's why it's important just beyond just knowing that information for the fact of being able to see when the woke do nonsense. It's useful in your everyday life for you personally to check yourself, but also for people that you respect. Go, hey, whoa. What you just did there, that was not cool. And you need to correct that. I agree with your point, but the way you just presented it was manipulative. Can you restate it in a clear way that communicates the truth without adding in problematic manipulative methods? Iron sharpens iron. Help people. Also help you understand when people are manipulating. And again, this is a classic case of manipulation. Now, coming from a lawyer and a prominent public figure, not just a random person at that, I have no question that there is some degree of manipulative intent in this. Why? Well, because she knows, again, she knows the body is not proving anything that it's saying. It's infusing most things through implication rather than the direct statement, although she makes direct statements. And it leaves you with a question, a very leading question. It's not a question of, oh, I'm posing this as a general thought. She's established a thought in your mind, and rather than having a clear point and stating that, so then you can check her on that, she puts it through inference by a question. Why are we decades too late asking why? Well, again, she wants you to fill in the blank, but she's already set the blank up for you. She's like whispering the answer in your ear. And it's manipulative. Oh man, I should have asked my friend if you use this line of reasoning and then a question, could it be objected to? Do you know, to a witness or a defendant? You know, anyone involved. If you made a nice statement like this and then posed a very leading question like that, maybe not even necessarily a leading question, that might not be the best description, but a very much, I mean, it's functionally does lead. But if you did that, would this be objectionable? Would it be able to be objected to? Very curious to hear that. Jordan, let me know. I might contact you regardless after this I finish recording, but if not, let me know. Let me know what your thoughts on that. Beyond that, would it be useful for us to at some point get, well, Jordan actually is, spoiler alert, Jordan is actually going to be on here a little bit more often. He helped us with our episode on Moody. We're going to be leaning on him for more information, does great research, writes like a lawyer. But would you be interested in us doing some episodes where we do examine a couple things like that, some legal things? Get Jordan on here, get another lawyer on here, maybe get some good back and forth conversation. Could be fun. Let us know. You can always comment on YouTube or Rumble. There's a place you can contact us on Spotify if you're watching there. Most other platforms, I don't think you can directly contact us, but you can always email us at contactwokepedia@gmail.com. Again, contactwokepedia@gmail.com. We do read the emails. We do not always get back to them in a timely manner. We apologize for that. A lot of emails are very detailed. We really appreciate that. A lot of people ask for a lot of information, and I personally feel a little bit obligated to try and get that and get overwhelmed with how much stuff I'm trying to get done each day. But we do read them, and we are committed to getting back to everyone. Just apologize if it ever takes us a little bit of time. But back to Rachel. Back to Rachel Den Hollander. Again, this is someone who is profiting off of a church, a denomination, a series of churches. I know some people are going to get upset. I just said church, and then was I referring to the SPCA as a church? No, I wasn't saying that. Please calm down. Church in the larger sense, but she's supposedly helping them deal with sexual abuse. In particular, ministers involved in sexual abuse. She said here she believes that all ministers are functionally abusers, whether through directly being an abuser, or in this case, it's more about they're an abuser by assisting an abuser. And yes, assisting an abuser to defend themselves against valid accusations is abusive. It is abusive towards that other person. Now, the thing is, she's the one that's abusive. She's abusing the church. She's accusing elders, every elder at every SBC church, if not SBC, because this wasn't SBC speaking, if you are a pastor in this country, she just accused you of sin. Now, generalizations are really bad in general. We should be very careful about making generalizations when it comes to the church, because whose church is this? Christ. When we make a generalization about the whole church, who are we generalizing about? We're actually generalizing about Christ. I think we all have a bad habit of saying the church, XYZ. We need to be a little bit more careful about that, be specific. But when you make a big generalization like this, you are making yourself an accuser of the brother, and you are accusing blanket sin to everyone without exception, even if you're sort of vaguely leaving open the possibility that some people are not. Again, universal yet nearly unequivocal. Universal but not nearly universal. She's put herself in opposition to Christ with that. This is not helping victims. This is actually abusing victims to attack who she really wants to attack. And who she wants to attack is apparently pastors. That's shocking. Now, someone like this really needs to examine themselves. Who are they trying to promote? Who are they trying to protect? Who are they trying to attack? Because as she sets herself up in opposition to Christ. That is a dangerous place to be. This is why the woke are so dangerous, because it really is a different religion that hates what Christ represents. And I think this tweet in particular was a little bit revealing about her nature, her desires, her hatred. But again, it kind of reveals a little bit about the woke in general. If you look at this pattern that she laid out here, you'll see it all over the place. Generalizing very negatively about the church, but then instead of stating clearly, this is my point in this, put it in another way that forces the implication into your mind to come out to make it what you're thinking rather than simply directly stated. If you follow someone like this, you take in what they're saying and you're not actively challenging it, being discerning about it, and rejecting it, even if you don't consciously believe the implications that she's putting in here, you will start to slowly over time take them in, and they will start to work their way up to the surface. It's like putting frog in boiling water. It's that analogy. She's turning the heat up tiny bit by tiny bit until you've accepted it. And by the time you realize there's a problem, you're already dead. This is a common tactic that they do. Hey, this is kind of turning into a mini How the Woke Manipulate episode. But that is something that they do. Watch for it, because it is subtle and very dangerous. But I just thought this was something worthwhile to discuss. I thought it was something that's very interesting, not in a positive way, but in a very negative way. But again, it hurts even to think about, because this is someone who's profiting off of the church, profiting off of Christ's bride, while then abusing Christ's bride. She claims to be an advocate for women. She claims to support #Church2. Well, unfortunately, the bride of Christ is going to her bridegroom and saying, yeah, Church2. And you know who the abuser is? The abuser is Mrs. Den Hollander. She's the one abusing Christ's bride, and I don't think that he's a very tolerant man when it comes to people beating his bride. Do not follow these abusers. Now, on the topic, because I really want to address this, I really want to nail this down, because when it comes to the topic of abusing people in the church, when it comes to abusing women, when it comes to abusing children, and yes, men do get abused too, physically, emotionally, sexually, whatever it is, that does happen. But it is especially heinous when it is perpetrated on women, especially when it's perpetrated by a man, someone who's supposed to be protecting women, hurting them. It's even more heinous when an adult hurts a child, when a woman hurts a child. And in that circumstance, I mean, it's super heinous when a man hurts a child, whatever type of hurt that is. But I think in this context, just as it's more heinous for a man to hurt a woman because it's breaking multiple things there. I think it's more heinous when a woman abuses a child, and that does happen, because that so shatters the motherly instincts that are put into women, the mama bear instincts that are put into women. Men are supposed to protect children as well, but there's something fierce and special about the motherly instincts that God put into moms. And when all those different things are violated in whatever ways they're violated, it is a heinous, heinous, heinous thing. I will go to war to defend people against abuse. And I have. It is something to fight, absolutely tooth and nail fight against. But it does not help the victims when you have your own mission, when you're serving yourself, when the victim is just a prop, a pawn in your game so that you can attack something else. Yes, we need to fight against abuse in society. We need to fight against abuse in the church. And that is a difficult, absolutely gut-wrenchingly difficult situation. I don't know if any of you have ever dealt with abuse cases, but they're hard and they hurt, and there's such a temptation to walk away. And they're difficult to navigate. And abusers will pull out so many stops to try and get you to back off. Oh, you're involving the police and the sheriff in this one locality, and all these other things in this one locality. Well, I'll go to the next one over and file a police report there. And then you'll get called down because they have no record. They don't know what's going on. So now they call you in because they believe, there was a report of a kidnapping. You'll have kids call you at 11 at night, drunk, telling you how it wasn't just my sister, it was me too. It was me too, and no one believes me. The police won't believe me. School won't believe me. Counselor, all these people won't believe me. It was me too, and no one will believe me. And we're talking in a Me Too place. We're talking about in a liberal place where they supposedly believe everyone. When there's real things come out, no one wants to believe it's true. It's hard. Life is hard. And that's why grifters like Mrs. Denhollander can sell a false narrative that's easier to swallow, can broad brush things and people will accept it because it's easier to believe that to believe in a boogeyman that you don't actually have to deal with it because it's not true than it is to deal with real cases of abuse that hurt because you have to get close to the fire. In fact, you have to stick your hands into the fire and get burned to try and help. You have to risk and sacrifice. If you really are helping abuse victims, you're not going to become a high profile, rich lawyer. You're going to become someone who is, you're not going to be making a bunch of money. And so I think it's important to remember that abuse is that bad. Abuse is that bad. Abuse is so bad that it'd be better. What does Christ say? Rather than making a little one to stumble, better to tie a millstone around your neck and be tossed into the sea. And I got to imagine that same type of attitude that Christ has carries over to those who use the stories of abuse victims to then attack the church. It hurts. It hurts because it makes it harder to help. Promoting false narratives, promoting false stories, promoting all sorts of falsehoods makes it harder to help real victims. Makes it harder for them to be heard, makes it harder for them to be believed, makes it harder for them to actually get help. It creates an attitude of mistrust, suspicion, questions that shouldn't have to be asked but now do. And all the meanwhile, people like Mrs. Denhollander profit, even double dip in the case of the SBC, getting paid by the SBC and getting paid by the investigative firm that the SBC hired. And there's not the point of this episode, but there's seems to be significant evidence that she's also siphoning names off to get clients. She is an abuser. She is an abuser. Do not listen to these people. These people are abusers. The woke are always the exact opposite of what they say they are. They always do the exact opposite of what they say they represent. And it just makes me furious, especially in this case, especially when we're talking about abuse. My goodness, this episode has actually become longer than I was originally thinking. I have hit the point of rambling, though. But I've said what I wanted to say. I've communicated what I want to communicate. Obviously, this is someone to watch out for, to not follow. But again, it's also just an example of the kind of things that the woke do and why we see it as such a problem, why we see these progressive woke Christians as a danger, because they are so opposed to God's word, yet people fall into the traps. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful. And if it has, please like, comment, share, engage with it so that others can see that it's useful, so that others can benefit from it. And yeah, that does help promote and grow it, but it's kind of the whole point. We want to see it grow because we want it to be a resource that people take in. And no, commenting isn't just to, if you're on YouTube, Rumble, that isn't just to engage the algorithm. I go onto videos before I watch them and I'll read comments to see, hey, is there something valuable in this? Is it worth the 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes, whatever it is, to watch this video, to listen to it? And I go down and I read things and I go, oh, hey, okay, there sounds like there's some good stuff. So when you engage with that way, you help other people see, oh, there's good stuff in here. I'm going to take the time to listen to it. Now, if it hasn't been helpful, let us know. Again, leave a comment, contact us, contactwokepedia@gmail.com. If there's something we need to improve, if there's a mistake or an error we made, will listen. And we do listen. Sometimes more than we probably should. But we want to be useful. So remember, as Sam would say if he was here today, keep standing for the truth. But remember, don't go woke.